as a management consultant, it's one of the things that sometimes is lacking in your work, the touch and feel, and the actually what did I change out in the real world? What impact did I create? I know that from myself and also for the consultants in our team. That's why we chose this work. That's why we show up in the office every morning, is to make a difference out in the world towards decarbonization. And a lot of times, thankfully, with the clients we work with, we get to pull some very large levers and have a large indirect impact through creating the roadmaps towards execution of their sustainability strategy, or calculating different models of what circularity might look like, or training leadership and departments and so on.
Hello and welcome to the Sustainable Healthcare Podcast. In this episode we have a summer special. We're looking back at what has passed in the year 2022 for Green Innovation Group. I have a conversation with my co-founder Joachim, and we're sharing what we've learned and what has been fun, what has sort of made us grow, and what have we learned. So hopefully you will enjoy. You will like and subscribe on Spotify, wherever you get your podcast, and share your feedback with us. Please, please, please. We really appreciate all the feedback we get, so we can grow and we can develop the content for your benefit, and also to inspire you and make sure that you get the most out of all the time we're spending on promoting the green transition of the healthcare sector. Today, it's the day before July 1st, and I am on my way to vacations. And that is something that very few business owners actually get to do for as long as I am about to do it. I'm about to go for 4 entire weeks where I will do my absolute best to not be on email and not be on LinkedIn, and in general try to be human without my work. And that's the first time in the past 7 years that I've done that for such an extended period of time. So I'm really looking forward to that. And in that regard, we're going to have a conversation about what we have learned in the past 6 months. Normally it would be me as a CEO that would have to present to someone what have we learned, what have we done, and look at how good we are. But we'd actually like to sort of switch that around, and then rather have me ask questions. So I have with me Joachim, and Joachim, if we're looking at 2022 so far, we had a hardcore KPI of starting to count belly laughters. How's that going?
Good and bad. Good in the sense that I think we are on target with the daily belly laughters.
That's good.
Bad in the way that we're not really counting. So we're not doing as we're preaching.
Yeah, it's the good old we're thinking, we're not counting.
Yeah.
All right. I have a similar feeling. We recently started focusing quite hard on decarbonizing the healthcare sector. So reflecting back on this half a year, starting January and ending now, end of June, what are the key learnings that you take away from this process of working only with decarbonizing healthcare?
Yeah, I think it could be good to talk a bit about Green Innovation Group in this episode. I'm super thankful to all the people out there listening, and usually we are very focused on what's going on in the healthcare industry, how we're helping our clients in pharma and medtech, not talking so much about ourselves. And it's probably been the biggest change, at least recently, maybe in the company's lifetime, that we've said 100% we are only going to focus on decarbonizing healthcare, and it's been amazing. We started the company 7 years ago, you and I together, and with a third co-founder, Martin. We just celebrated our 7th year birthday as a company. Yeah, it was a good night. It was some very good craft beers and good company. And it's a funny feeling that this is in no way near where we intended to go. We couldn't even see this on the horizon. We've been a management consulting company for many years now, but we didn't start out as such. And I think the biggest change for me has been that we had worked in the healthcare industry before. We worked with pharma clients before. Most consultancies are not industry focused the way we are. But I think the realization we had that we cannot do the green transition without the healthcare industry. And there's so much work to be done here that it doesn't make sense for us to focus elsewhere. And it's been super positive to see, both for myself, but also with our consultants, that I can just see that they level up their skills so much faster because the ability for them to transfer knowledge from one project to another, it's super high. And because, for instance, a pharma company is a very complex size, it's just super nice to see some of our consultants going out and them actually being able to bring cross-departmental knowledge, cross-silo knowledge in a way that can be hard inside your own company. Because if you're working inside a company and you're working in production, of course you know some guy from clinical or you know some girl from commercial, but that's not part of your everyday life. Mm-hmm. But we are actually able to bring that now because our consultants over a year will usually get to work across the value chain.
And it's also a really important sort of part of our theory of change, which is that we need to contribute with our knowledge and our expertise for the highest degree of impact. And the closer we are to the recipients' everyday world and the challenges that they encounter in their industry, the more impactful our advisory can actually be. So that's one side of it, that if our theory of change is that we need to contribute with our knowledge to create impact, then having more impact by being more relatable and having deeper sector expertise is actually part of our obligation in order to have as much impact as possible.
And then it also just gives a lot of clarity of work, and that might not be as relatable if you've never had your own company or I'm in charge of a lot of our business development. And just that there's so many things where it becomes very easy to say no. Yeah. Because if it's not part of the healthcare industry, well, then it's not for me. Then I know some other good sustainability consultants that I can point towards and that can help. And just showing up every day and having that, I know that this is my mission, that has been very, 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 very nice.
And it's actually a great point, because we were not born into the healthcare industry. We were born into the green transition. Yes. And that in the early years of Green Innovation Group's lifetime, we were working with green innovation in all walks of life. So if someone needed to get advice on sustainable food production or sustainable mobility or sustainable power production or whatever it may be, we would be the go-to company that could help you advise progression on green innovation. So we were quite generalist, you could say. And we, of course, still cover a very broad area of technological solutions, because most of our clients have rather holistic needs. But it's just a very sort of clear indication that the field of sustainability is maturing. Yes. And that is a very great sign, because when we sort of started calling major companies and asking them about their sustainability strategy, they were like, yeah, we have a CSR department. And that was usually one person with a communication degree that would do public relations and file a report every year saying that now they got new carpets or something like that. and it's just amazing to feel sort of the speed and velocity of this wave of serious sustainability efforts, serious sustainability strategies, and also a lot of our clients are seeing the writing on the wall that if they don't change, then they're going to perish.
Yeah, and I think that's been, for the past 6 months, so nice to see in the healthcare industry. We are, of course, working a lot in the Northern European and the Danish markets, also others. So there's also areas that are at the forefront globally of sustainability in healthcare. But I think it's no secret that healthcare and pharma medtech have been lagging behind in sustainability maturity, in effectiveness in this area. And right now, I'm biased because I'm in the sector, but it's like every week there's a new case coming out of reusing metal instruments in hospitals, or this procurement department has made this change, have introduced sustainability parameters in this. And we've also been working long enough in the healthcare industry that it's just a joy to start to see some of the strategies that were made 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago actually start to unfold and see the results from that in significant CO2 reductions, in significant material reduction.
Yeah, so there's another element to it that, as I'm just paraphrasing a little bit what you said here. So what have you learned this year, Joachim, when you say, I have seen the sort of the fruit of the work that we have put in the past couple of years come to fruition in real life? One very tangible case is there's a power plant in Denmark where we help facilitate the conversation between the different stakeholders. And every time we go there, it's just so rewarding to drive past that field and then see this solar power plant being in there doing thermal solar energy. What is an equivalent that you have experienced this year? It could be in the realm of biodegradable plastics.
Yes, I think I know where you're going. That we did, and I think it's public enough that I can mention the company name. We did a super cool open innovation project with Novo Nordisk about how to take their injection pens for insulin you use when you have diabetes and make them more circular. It's their absolute key product, both in volume and revenue. They produce, I believe, over 500 million pens a year, rising. So it was mission critical, and it still is. There's still a long way to go being solved. And we had the opportunity to work with the department and see with the experts. We ended up creating 5 industrial pilots. So real-world technological solutions being put into different parts of the production chain to test out, well, this little part, could we do something different? And one of the key pilots were with Genesis, which there's also 2 episodes with the Canadian biotech company Genesis here in the podcast. You can go back and find them. And they're starting and what Genesis can do is that they can make bioplastic and biodegradable plastic of the waste from the insulin production, which is a potential game changer. And let's see how it goes. But they've started the process of scaling up now. And you never know what's going to happen in a large corporate, but it's just been incredibly rewarding to see something that was hardly an idea. It was deemed impossible several times. And then there were just an incredibly enthusiasm by some strong-willed individuals inside Novo Nordisk. And together we were able to to guide that commercial pilot through some impossible hoops.
And just seeing that sort of little sheet of biodegradable
Yeah,
plastic
yeah,
that
the
was
first
kind of
product samples are coming out now. That's made from the insulin waste.
Yeah,
It's just
that
absolutely
felt
amazing. Yeah.
that just felt magical.
Yeah.
And I mean it's also a recognition that sometimes the work we do will actually have an extremely long lead time before it turns into tangible results. But this one was just it was just so real that you could touch and feel it in that way.
And exactly the touch and feel that it's as a management consultant, it's one of the things that sometimes is lacking in your work, the touch and feel, and the actually what did I change out in the real world? What impact did I create? I know that from myself and also for the consultants in our team, because I mean that's why we chose this work. That's why we show up in the office every morning, is to make a difference out in the world towards decarbonization. But what does that actually look like? And a lot of times, thankfully, with the clients we work with, we get to pull some very large levers and have a large indirect impact through creating the roadmaps towards execution of their sustainability strategy, or calculating different models of what circularity might look like, or training leadership and departments and so on. But we are always the helpers to help the client, the pharma, the medtech companies succeed. And so often you can be left with a little bit of, okay, so what actually happened? So it's just been incredibly nice whenever we do something where there's a real physical change that we can go out and see, okay, now this factory is producing in a different way, or this building looks different like this. It's incredibly rewarding. And then it's also just, I really love that for most of our clients, we are lucky to get to do several projects, so we can actually see the changes as they come along, and then you get that reward.
And you also had something like it feels a lot like a eureka moment, that we have the concept of the Hippocratic Oath. That's the oath you take as a doctor, where you basically dedicate your professional life to doing no harm. And then just asking ourselves, what does the Hippocratic Oath mean if we have to consider global warming and climate change and rising temperatures and the consequences of that? And that has actually sort of transformed our thinking quite radically, that we need to sort of honor that oath in our work as well, and then figure out how can the delivery of healthcare products and services be done without compromising planet health. And sort of that line of thinking is just been some. I mean, it sounds quite simple when you say it like that, but until you see it, you can't see it. And what has that changed for you when you get up and you go to work?
I think first of all, it's been more and more clear to me over the past half year that decarbonizing the healthcare industry is not just a nice to have. It's mission critical to the point that we cannot do the green transition without it. We cannot stop climate change without it, because it's a big problem now, roughly 4% of global CO2 emissions, and it's only going to rise as the population gets older, and also as we get richer globally, especially in Asia and Africa. More people will spend a higher proportion of their income on healthcare. And it's something like, I mean, you can look at the numbers, and I mean, it's as a knowledge piece, it's not something that's completely new to me. But just the more work that we're doing, the more I see that, okay, wow, this is really the case. But also just how much change needs to happen. I think that's also one of the things that, what are the consequences actually of expanding the Hippocratic Oath to include in the planet? that I think that we are seeing a lot of pharma and medtech companies doing incredibly progress on scope 2, their energy purchases, where they get the electricity and power from. That being the easy part, but also seeing that every time we take a step in terms of changing treatment, changing production, we can look 2 steps further ahead, and something else needs to change. So I think that's been a key realization for me as well, that there is still so far to go in this journey.
There's one thing that I really love about this, and that is when I see the sort of middle-aged, white, rather privileged man working in a healthcare company in one way or another.
I was just going to say, you're talking about yourself.
Yeah, I'm not that old yet. But then, they're probably fathers of a couple of children. And then they learn about the importance of the green transition, because they were in that business. They were saving lives with developing those products and pushing those services and products. And now they learn that, hey, but we're doing it at a cost. And then just seeing that sort of ignition of fire in their eyes and the passion that they go to work with, when you're like, I just love that in the healthcare industry as such, you have so many big hearts that have been detached from the green transition and are now kind of getting that connection to it. And they get that sort of like, that look in their eyes where I'm like, I'm so glad I'm not playing a football match against you right now, because you would destroy me. You're in hell mode right now, and you'll do, nothing's going to stop you on this mission. And we had this one a great guy that said, he said, I remember him telling you, like, Joachim, 1 year ago, I had not thought about sustainability and the green transition in my company. He's working for a major medtech company. But now it's everywhere. And a year from now, it's going to be our sort of reason to exist is that we survived our green transition in a way that we could actually survive in the market, because he's seeing that the demand is rising. But he's also hyper passionate about it, because it's about leaving the world better than he got it for his children as well. And it's just, seeing that kind of passion in this industry where people are, to a very large extent, I find at least, driven by doing something with a higher purpose. They're not just selling TVs, and not that selling TVs is necessarily that bad.
I think it's very clear, and that most people in this industry are doing it to a high degree of something outside of themselves, and I'm very thankful that we get to work with those kind of people, because that's also one of the things that making this transition and going all in to only working with healthcare, both as a business owner. I mean, there's some butterflies in your stomach. So I'm going to say no to these projects and clients over here, and we still have to pay the bills and pay salary to everyone. But also we are also saying that, okay, now it's only these kind of people that we are going to work with. And I mean, it's a massive population. There are millions of people employed in the industry, so there's a high degree of diversity as well. But as a consultant, you are at the end, at least the way we do consulting, at the end of the day, you're working with people, and you're working with changing the hearts and minds of people and the way they work. And that just means that if I weren't working with people that I connected with and found interesting and charismatic and so on, it would be some really long days sometimes. Then for me, it just makes all the difference in my energy on a project, that is people who chose to work on something outside of themselves.
Yeah, and one of the things that I find also to be extremely rewarding is that there's a lot of incredibly smart people working in this industry. Definitely. And that has sort of been a forcing function for us to get into I don't know territory much more often than what feels comfortable, right? Because they're asking really great questions, and a lot of the time that becomes an opportunity for us to go home, reflect on it, research, explore, expand our knowledge, analyze what we find, interpret it, and bring back good answers when we can, or even deeper or more qualified I don't knows when we truly don't know. Now we've talked about what's been happening the past 6 months. I feel like this has been an incredibly rewarding year. I've learned a lot, I've grown a lot, I've seen the belly laughter count being high and rising. A general very high degree of satisfaction from our work, also in our colleagues. What are you looking forward to for the next 6 months, for the rest of 2022?
That's a great question. First of all, I'm also looking forward to a really nice summer holiday after a great but also intense first half year. And then I'm super excited about a lot of things. I'm really excited about continuing our thought leadership with this podcast and the blog post we do to work on LinkedIn. To me, it's incredibly rewarding that we can help the industry and we can help people whether or not they have the option to become a client or not. So no matter your budget or decision power, there's some way at least that we can inspire. And for some amazing reason, we have listeners in Singapore, Malaysia, and other places around the world. And if I have been able to just plant a little seed somewhere in that regard, that's incredibly rewarding. And then I look forward to doing more projects with our clients and insisting on pushing themselves and pushing us. That's also just one of the things that is just so amazing with some of our clients, that sometimes when we come out, it's us who are like, okay, but we also have to be pragmatic and let's do something that can be realized this quarter. And where we are actually sometimes being told by our clients to say, hey, we want to be pushed. This has to be like, if this goes through, we have to be the greenest of all in the world. And I just love coming out to that. And then we will be working on some pretty large transformation projects in the fall, which is just always incredibly rewarding for me to go in a full business division with several thousand FTEs and really dive into the murky waters of business planning and KPIs and massaging sustainability into the core part of the service.
And understanding their everyday lives, right?
Exactly.
Just going in there. I remember I was asking someone, so what does a random Tuesday look like? Yeah. And she goes on to answer me, well, then at 9 I have this, and at 11 I have that, and at 10 I have this. And I'm like, how do you know? And she's like, well, all my Tuesdays are the days where I meet with everyone in the entire organization. That's every Tuesday. And I just picked a random day of the week.
Wednesday,
if I had said Wednesday, I would have gotten a completely different answer. And that's just really curious to me, that all of these thousands of individuals that are all working there with very objective, high impact, important parts of making this large machinery work, they have their individual lives. And if our advisory doesn't take its vantage point in their everyday lives, then change is going to be incredibly difficult. Because it's not a top-down. We all need to sort of live together in order to make this transition happen. So of course that's also what we're trying to do for the next half a year. I think that just about wraps it up. So thanks a lot for sharing yourself, Joachim. And
my pleasure. And have a good summer holiday.
Yeah. Cheers. Looking forward to it. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Sustainable Healthcare Podcast. We always appreciate if you would like, share, subscribe, or do whatever you have within the realm of possibilities in your podcast app or on YouTube or wherever you consume this podcast. We really, really appreciate your feedback. So if you have any feedback at all, please write us, engage with us on LinkedIn. We're quite active there. So if you have any questions or burning desires, we're really keen to hear them.